gazing proudly from its stoic perch above the moor. I lived all my years in that ancient, rumor-shadowed manor, fattened by decadence and luxury. And yet I began to tire of conventional extravagance. Singular, unsettling tales suggested the mansion itself was a gateway to some fabulous and unnameable power. With relic and ritual, I bent every effort towards the excavation and recovery of those long-buried secrets, exhausting what remained of our family fortune on swarthy workmen and sturdy shovels. At last, in the salt-soaked crags beneath the lowest foundations, we unearthed that damnable portal antediluvian evil. Our every step unsettled the ancient earth, but we were in a realm of death and madness. In the end, I alone fled laughing and wailing through those blackened arcades of antiquity, until consciousness failed me. You remember our venerable house, opulent and imperial. It is a festering abomination. I beg you, return home, claim your birthright, and deliver our family from the ravenous, clutching shadows of the darkest dungeon.
Hello, Ascanius. Thank you for reminding everyone. I believe you are the first one here. I hope you're doing well. And hello to everybody. Darkest Dungeon is about making the most of a bad situation. Quests will fail or must be abandoned. Heroes will die. And when they die, they stay dead. Progress autosaves constantly, so actions are permanent. The game expects a lot out of you. How far will you push your adventures? How much are you willing to sacrifice, or willing to risk in your quest to restore the hamlet? What will you sacrifice? I still can never get to the end of that. Alright, so there's an annoying little flash in the top right-hand corner. I can thank Discord, which I think is kind of overrated. Like, obviously, it gets used a lot, and I think there are a lot of good things about Discord, and there are a lot of features about it that I actually think are pretty bad, and they seem to skate by. But I don't know, I use it a lot. But I really wish it would stop sort of imposing itself on games like Darkest Dungeon and interfere with the stream. So, is there a competitor for Discord? Not really. I mean, Discord's kind of competing with established channels. Like, it used to be that a bunch of streamers would have, like, Slack channels, and some of them would use things like Skype, and Discord kind of came in. I mean, it's a smart move what they did. They essentially kind of came in with alternatives for those services, and they specifically targeted it towards gaming, which was an area that's obviously, you know, quite large, and will maybe be a little bit more... I mean, the thing that's really smart about it is that gamers tend to like to do things that are sort of specifically catered towards them. So Discord is not a gaming product. Skype is not a gaming product. Or sorry, did I say Discord? Skype is not a Discord product. Slack is not a gaming product, but Discord is. And I think that attributes a lot of its success. The biggest problem that I have is that obviously there's a lot of white supremacy that is recruiting through Discord. And while it is true that the people who run Discord are not responsible for the actions of other people, I think the problem is the same that a lot of these companies are facing, which is they want to have very large user bases. And I think for a while it's been a little too easy for them to sort of turn a blind eye to that sort of stuff. Apparently they're doing more about it, but it's a problem, right? And it's best that we don't turn away from it. It's a complicated one. It's one that I realize people have a lot of strong views about, but it's the sort of thing that we should be holding our sort of our platforms to account for, because I think it's really worth considering. If you take a look at the Steam discussions for a game like Cultist Simulator compared to the average Steam community, Cultist Simulator is very nice. It is actually quite rare to encounter people who are unkind in those. And obviously there are people in other discussions on Steam where that's not the case. Like, usually it's quite rude in terms of the lineup. So the thing is that you really can curate an audience, and sometimes, it doesn't necessarily mean that you get this fantastic growth, but you do have a certain level of quality. I realize these are the sorts of things, like, the thing is, this is miserable to talk about, and people just don't like hearing about it. But it's one of these ones where, again, I kind of expect the things that I work with to put some effort into that. But yeah, I mean, it's the world we live in. It's the best I can say. Is the Discord store still a thing, or does it exist in name only? I believe it's still a thing. I think they actually still have a couple of, like, freebies that they give away on it. But I would be honest with you. Like, I think GOG, Steam, the Epic Store, Origin, Uplay, all kind of are likely candidates to survive in the future. I would also put Humble in that. So, like, of those original ones that I mentioned, I'm just gonna get into the estate before I go too far. I'll have conversation will be my usual preamble rather than a recap of the game. But I mean, those platforms that I talked about, they all create games, and so, obviously Epic had a period where they sort of went away from producing things like Gears of War, and then they sort of came back. They acquired Chair, which obviously is mobile oriented. They do Fortnite. They are going to be doing Spyjinx.
Pale in comparison to that final crowning thing. I could not look, nor could I look away.
Valve still, produces things. Artifact was obviously the last one, but they're continuing to put some effort into things like Counter-Strike Go and Dota 2 and whatnot. Ubisoft is obviously a huge publisher. Origin is a huge publisher. And, I mean, for those ones, it's a little bit like the Blu-ray HD DVD competition, which is that Sony could always sort of turn it into a stalemate because they owned a movie studio, and so they could just simply refuse to release on HD DVD. Of course, Sony won the Blu-ray competition right around the time that physical media stopped being a... Indeed. Sharp wound up being the first legend-level character due to an event that we had in town. But Humble kind of gets extended to that because they now have a publishing program in the form of Humble Originals. So Humble obviously was publisher for Cultist Simulator, but they also, I believe they did Slay the Spire. Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, I think, was another one. A Hat in Time. Certainly they are, they're getting more content for their sort of monthly bundles and whatnot. So they have, and of course the other thing is that they sort of build on top of existing storefronts. So they now actually distribute keys for Steam, GOG, and the Epic Store now, all three, rather than just Steam as it used to be. Of course, they've also done Uplay and Origin for a while, but I think that Origin they probably have the least connection with. But at least as far as Uplay, Epic, now GOG, and Steam. And again, admittedly, GOG, it's fairly limited. I think it's like Thronebreaker and maybe The Witcher 3. Epic and Steam have definitely, it's kind of the full deal. But the thing is that Humble is putting money towards content. And admittedly, it's a publishing relationship. They're not developing the games. But they have some kind of ownership on them. And so as a result, there is this, there's this point where if they wanted to flex their muscle a little bit more, it's kind of like the Netflix model, right? Netflix knew that there were going to be a bunch of negotiations coming up to try and renew the licenses for some movies which it had got at a lower value. And that was exactly around the time they started creating original programming, because, of course, the movie studios saw how successful it was and their margins would have been absolutely crushed. Am I getting any use out of Origin Premiere? Yeah, I mean, I haven't played Anthem in a while, but I do actually want to get back to it. One of the really important things for me about Origin Premiere is that it gives me the option of testing things out. I think that's the biggest benefit to these kinds of subscription deals. So obviously, Humble has its monthly, but it's a bundle of games that you will get, as opposed to their vault, which is a little bit thin. So for instance, like Johnny Big Time was talking about Warhammer Chaos Bane, which I think is like $40. It's an action RPG. Now he got to try that. Now I think that's actually in the basic access. Now that I think of it, I don't think that's a Premiere one. But he got to try it. Now it turned out it wasn't for him. Like, he didn't really like it that much. But the thing is that you get to try stuff like that. So the Premiere stuff, like the ones that I play either fairly regularly or I can see myself going back to, Anthem and Battlefield 5. I did Sea of Solitude when that first came out, and A Way Out, although I think A Way Out had just gone into the regular level. I'll probably try out the new Need for Speed when it comes out. I certainly enjoyed the Need for Speed that I played. I've never played a FIFA game, but because I have Premiere, I mean, why not? I'll see if that's my kind of thing. I think one of the biggest things for me is that the Premiere just gives me the option, and so as a result, it's much less costly. The frictions to actually accessing the some of these new experiences are a lot less. I don't need to buy it to try it out. I'm really interested in Detention, which apparently ran afoul of the Chinese government, so clearly I want to try that out. I already own Tyranny, but that's in Origin Access, so that would be another one where I suspect a lot of people have heard about that game, and if they haven't tried it yet, having a membership to that program would give people a chance to try out some things that they've heard about but not seen. Maybe like Game Pass now that's on PC too. Very likely. The funny thing is that I wound up getting an Xbox around the time of my birthday. Not for my birthday, but it just coincided. That was completely unexpected. So I might like Game Pass just period, because now I can actually play some console games. But yeah, the one thing I wanted to say about the Store Wars were, I think the difficulty that Discord finds itself in, I think they're trying to get even more aggressive on the revenue share, because clearly Epic kind of caught everyone by surprise by going so much lower than the 30%. I think Discord is actually trying to price lower than that, but again, the big challenge is that Discord is trying to do what Twitch tried to do. And I mean, everybody likes to talk about how evil Amazon is and how they just come in and wreck everything through underpricing everything. But it's worth remembering, like, the effort to make a storefront for Twitch failed. Like, it's basically you get games with Prime now, but like there's no Twitch store anymore. Like, it's just something that they gave up on. So I don't know, maybe Discord knows something that I don't, but I think it's a little less likely that they're going to find that kind of success, because while there's admittedly a large user base, the same could have been said for Twitch. And the fact of the matter is, whatever people think of the Epic Store, whatever people think of GOG, whatever people think of Steam, frankly, these are people who do have sort of original releases. Uplay sort of seems to be going the way of, if you have it on one of these other platforms, you have to install Uplay and use it, which I find a little bit more annoying than exclusives, frankly. But I already have Uplay, so whatever. It's just going to be another launcher that's open. The thing is that when it comes to all of these other ones, you can sort of see a path to them having a dedicated enough sort of customer base by virtue of the fact that they're producing their own things, even if it's just in the role of a publisher. in a way that sort of the also-rans that might be considering it ultimately can't really sustain their well, I mean, I would say momentum, but I guess they don't really have momentum. Like, I can't really think of any of these other rival storefronts that have come up that are really, like, turning heads. It sort of seems to be Epic and Steam at the moment, and then Humble is kind of where you go to find a good sale. All Xbox games are on PC now anyway, so you're not going to find anything new there. That's true, except for the Red Dead Redemption games. I've never played them, so I'd be interested to see. How cool would it be if multiple publishers like Bethesda, Square Enix, and Activision launched one big subscription service like Hulu when they first launched? Well, the funny thing, Ascanius, in one of the... And I will jump into the game in a little bit. I've hit my 15-minute mark to let people come in. In one of the Epic articles, I actually talked about, you know, I mean, there's a lot of ways people look at it and the strategy that Epic's putting in, and how it's like, well, really they just want the monopoly for themselves, and that's why what they're doing is evil. And the counterexample that I give to that is like, so suppose that Epic succeeds and Valve of all people run out of money. What stops all of the publishers from forming a consortium and using the exact same tactic against the Epic Store? The answer to that is nothing, by the way. But it's kind of funny. We actually sort of seem to be on the same page in this idea of, you know, a big group of publishers getting together to sort of make its own rival offering. I suspect probably where it's going to be going is each major publisher is just going to have its own. And I suspect what will probably happen is a little bit like what you're talking about, which is the ones who aren't able to sort of establish a toehold in their own, like in their own space, will probably band together for some sort of joint offering, or alternatively they'll just merge with one of the rival services. So like I kind of see Origin really sort of seems to be like the Disney's subscription service. Like, Disney is a lot cheaper than all of the other alternatives, and it's got a really deep offering in terms of like all of the properties that they own and can put out, just like EA. Uplay obviously has its own version. Certainly Uplay has a nice big catalog, but I actually took a look at the price and I'm like, this is kind of expensive for what I'm getting here. Like, the really nice thing about Origins is that it's not just EA games. I think the Xbox offering, the Microsoft Game Pass or whatever it is a pretty attractive offering as well, both in terms of price and what you get. I'm sure the PlayStation one is nice. I just don't own a PlayStation, so I haven't looked too much at it. But I kind of suspect a little bit like Bethesda. Like, Bethesda obviously has its own storefront, but clearly they put Fallout 76 on Steam because I suspect it wasn't enough to sort of justify this independent approach. Same deal with GOG and Thronebreaker. Like, they tried to make that an exclusive to GOG and it didn't sell anything, and so it winds up being on Steam. Which is, I always love it when people are like, you know, GOG would never make Cyberpunk an exclusive. It's like, yeah, but it's not like they didn't try. Johnny Big Time! Just in time. Just in big time. How you doing, Johnny? I hope I didn't, I wasn't sure if you wanted to like jump into Diablo like right away, so I did opt to stream. If you have time after stream, we can jump into the new season. If you want to come on now, you can. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I am kind of geared up for Darkest Dungeon. And what was it? What was I going to say? Oh yeah, we were talking about the subscription services. The one company I think would probably be more likely to do a subscription service on its own would be Activision Blizzard, because they kind of already have that in the form of World of Warcraft, and moving into that model for other game, like just a suite of games probably wouldn't be that difficult for them. In fact, I suspect probably the big determination that they have is like, how do we do a subscription service that does not make people really mad that we're not including World of Warcraft inside of it? But yeah, I mean, I kind of expect that what will happen is that some of the bigger publishers, but ones that aren't maybe able to sort of sustain this extended run as a standalone subscription service, will probably hop on to, I suspect, the Xbox One. But I also think EA is actually very good at forming partnerships, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a few of them go in. Anyways, I hope I did not annoy too many people, because I know every time I bring up the Epic Store, even in passing, it results in a really unpleasant time in chat. But let me just take a minute here and shout out Johnny big time. I know there's not a lot of people here, so I will make it brief. Johnny and I are probably going to embark on a couple of other game partnerships in a bit. I gotta get these guys de-stressed. Spreading my liberal propaganda. Johnny is one of my favorite streamers. Actually, I hope you've checked your email, Johnny. If you haven't, you probably want to do that. Johnny just finished a playthrough of The Witcher 3. And I think he's evaluating what franchise he's going to be playing next. He does a lot better job of getting the action going. Obviously, I've got my big, long introductions. This one's running overtime. But I had a great time with him for Scanius's question about Origin Premiere. Like, the time that I had with Johnny in A Way Out was worth the price of subscription alone. But again, he's a great guy. He's probably my number one streamer in terms of like doing co-op streams with. He's the person who I enjoy watching the most on Twitch, and maybe he will be doing a CRPG on his stream at some time in the future. I actually think that series would be really good to do on your stream, but if you do, I will give you a quick tip about which one to start with. And again, it's a short one, but please do check him out because he is a wonderful streamer. And have you ever done Darkest Dungeon, Johnny? Because I feel like that would be, given the fact that you gave one of the best XCOM streams I've ever seen, I kind of feel like you would really kill it with Darkest Dungeon. Okay, let's get some people. Oh, they're already healing up. Okay, let's figure out where we're going first. I mean, we've got some low-level stuff to go through, and I think I had a Vestal that I wanted to move up. Right, the Vestal is still healing. So, I can go long. Let's see what we've got here. So we've got Koliar would be in the back, Plagas would be in the front, Cam Rooney I think we can get. Okay, no, we can work with something like this. So not a lot of healing. 100% of room battles is definitely a risky one, given sort of given the lineup. Here's what we're gonna do. So I need paintings for the guild, and I need deeds for the blacksmith. So priorities for paintings and deeds. These are a little too tough for these guys. Well, you know what? I hate doing this, but I think I am going to risk it in the ruins here. Ha, no worries, Johnny. So those games have the CRPG style, like sort of like Baldur's Gate almost, which is one reason I think you'll enjoy them. And like I said, let's have a chat off cast about which ones I think you will enjoy the most. Well, I think you'll enjoy them all, but like it kind of depends how deep you want to go down that rabbit hole. Okay, so let's actually talk about Darkest Dungeon after 20 minutes of monologuing. We had a couple of good runs last time. What I'm going to be doing this time around, well, I don't normally like doing a long dungeon with a group like this.
The fiends must be driven back. And what better place to begin than the seat of our noble line?
What I'm trying to do is basically get a bit of cash and get these people leveled up, because most of the enemies that we're encountering are sort of level... they're like level 3 or higher. So we have to complete 100% of room battles. There's no cheap way of doing that. What I'll do is I'll explore the right-hand side of the map first, and then we'll kind of try and follow a winding path so that we minimize the number of rooms we go through. But like I said, I mean, there's no easy way around it. We're gonna have to deal with whatever bad guys we encounter. A soothing pale light engulfs the hero.
Decimated.
Good start.
A brilliant confluence of skill and purpose. Their formation is broken. Maintain the offensive.
Hopefully the bleed will do. Yeah, the bleed will take care of it.
Inspiration and improvement.
This is where I'd be healing at this point, but I don't think we have any. Or the musketeer might have some heal. They do. Oh, what am I doing? That's the wrong person.
Press this advantage. Give them no quarter.
Hello, Sungif. How are you doing? All right. That's a good start. Not exactly the hardest fight in the world, but I'm not going to complain about that.
Mind that such missteps are the exception and not the rule.
Probably the Arbalest is my bigger worry. Damn it. So I think this time I'm just going to go for the heavier damage because I know I can't distribute the bleed. So the reason I did the Iron Swan here is just because of the stress damage this guy does. Now I'm going to start healing up the Man-at-Arms just because they are kind of low.
Beyond one's limits.
How do I keep coherent for hours while streaming? I think one might argue I fail to do so. Or are you talking to Johnny? For my own part, I always find that, so like if you just talk to me, you will find, I think Johnny can probably talk about this. I have, it's not just I have like opinions on a lot of things, which I do, but I try as much as I can to have a thoughtful opinion on a lot of things. I am interested by ideas. I'm interested in sort of seeing how things work and reasoning through them. And so, in addition to talking about the game, I tend to be fairly comfortable in terms of talking about stuff that's on my mind. And I'm also a bit aware of the fact that I don't have a... I think I can afford the Rampart. Nice, okay. So... I'm just buying some time so I can get another heal in. But anyways, I'm a bit conscious of the fact that I I don't have a camera, and so the only means of communication that I have is talking over the mic to people in chat. Now, obviously, having having people in chat to interact with helps me quite a bit. So obviously the artist formerly known as Sean Bean, or Ascanius. I always think I don't pronounce that correctly. Apologies. Obviously having people in chat to sort of riff off of is really helpful. But I think one of the things is that because I enjoy talking about stuff, and sometimes just talking out loud is a way that I can reason through a problem, it's one of the ways that I'm sort of able to keep doing this thing for a bit. One of the, I think if people were interested in getting into streaming, I don't follow this advice myself, but I actually think it is good advice. If you want to get into streaming, one of the best things that you can do, in my opinion, is to cast with someone. Because you're not really guaranteed to have... someone in chat to interact with. If it's your first stream, you probably won't. But when you have a friend in... if you have a friend in the... If you have a friend in the chat, that's one thing. If you have a friend on the broadcast with you, then the natural interactions that you have with someone are there. And I think those are some of the most important things when it comes to entertaining people. Like, if you consider the Way Out stream that I did with Johnny, like, he
Foolish horrors, brought low and driven into the mud.
He and I interacted less with the audience than we normally do, and I think a couple of people commented on the fact that we weren't talking that much during the story parts. But the thing is that the story parts, everybody's going to enjoy those. It's kind of like watching a movie. And the nice thing is that because Johnny and I sort of riff off of each other quite a bit, we didn't so much need to worry about the chat interaction. It was there, but obviously it was still entertaining to watch, at least in my opinion. Obviously it's a little self-aggrandizing to say, yeah, this thing that I did was really entertaining. But I hope you guys kind of see what I'm trying to say. Like, being able to sort of bounce off of your companion, to be able to talk a bit about the game and to have that human interaction, people are going to respond to that, because in the end you're showing your personality. Not everything you say is necessarily going to relate to every single person in the chat, and that's going to be increasingly true as channels grow. So if you go from like 5 to 500 people, there's no way you can say something that carries the same meaning to everyone inside of that chat room. But if you sort of keep true to yourself and the entertainment that you're experiencing, I think people will respond to that. And so I think that's one of the reasons why, if you're trying to kind of get your footing on streaming or see if it's for you, playing games with friends is fun anyway, and it allows you to show more of your personality through your interactions with your friend rather than trying to appeal to an anonymous audience. Cool.
In Radiance, may we find victory.
So I don't actually need to go into this room, but I kind of want to see what's in the curios. Ooh. Let's get rid of the medicine. Hello, Storhutugen. All is well. I had kind of an extended... Ascanius is always good for a chat at the beginning, and I appreciate that, actually, because it gives me a chance to cover some stuff I'm interested in. But I did sort of let my tendency to ramble get ahead of me. So we're just on our first round for the night. The grand count, over 100.
Back to the pit.
So prioritizing that one just because it was the last one that had an attack. Unfortunately, I don't have any way of healing that poison. I'm glad. What usually happens with those ones is someone who dislikes one of the stores I'm talking about. So, like, if I talk about EA, it's usually EA. If it's the Epic Store, they talk about Epic. Normally, those kinds of rants, if I don't hear anything in chat, what will happen is I'll get an angry comment on YouTube about why I'm totally wrong and I should feel ashamed of myself. Those are the comments I don't reply to. Oh, sorry guys, I just lost one of my diagnostics here. Cool, no drop frames yet. How many of you here... Okay, I'm going to feel bad because this is just me pressuring Johnny at this point, but how many of you here would like to see Johnny Big Time cast The Darkest Dungeon? I'm not sad at all about that hunger triggering, just because it lets my healing go up and it reduces the food that I'm carrying. That means more opportunities for loot. So I'm just going to take a quick second here. I wish I was like... I'm sure if I like paid attention to like graph theory or something like that, I could do this without checking it. I just want to see what kind of path I can trace. So I'd prefer to do this because it costs me less light and I don't need to use the shovel. We can do sort of... This makes the most sense. Not really a Darkest Dungeon fan. I'm so sorry, Sungift. So this would have been like 2 streams in a row where you've seen Darkest Dungeon. I like this game a lot.
The light, the promise of safety.
I don't know. If you guys haven't seen it, Johnny Big Time's XCOM playthrough was phenomenal. You want to see Johnny Big Time speedrun the Witcher trilogy now that he's got his first one under his belt.
Another one falls.
Are you talking about the Darkest Dungeon DLC? The Darkest Dungeon DLC is surprisingly good. Like, I had avoided it because it says that it's difficult, so, like, not for new players. I obviously waited too long to play it because it is an incredibly well done... oh, I got lucky there. It was a 50-50 chance, but... yeah, I had an absolute blast with my first run through the Crimson Court. I probably should have used the heal, but...
This expedition at least promises success.
Okay, priority to the stress dealer. Oh, that's an interesting point. I haven't really thought about that much. They say the Crimson Court is a pretty tough one, actually. Yeah, I don't know. The game itself says that it is not for new players.
Masterfully executed.
And I'm inclined to agree with it. I just think that when you see something like that, the tendency is to sort of freak out a little bit, and it's not something you need to freak out about. Okay. Next up, I'm prioritizing this guy because while he hasn't inflicted bleed yet, he might. The Arbalist does do some nasty damage, but I've kind of already got that taken care of because it's the only thing my Jester can target. Again, a heal might have been an idea here, but I'm safe enough. As I incessantly say, elimination is the best form of damage mitigation. Cool. So this is all giving me reasons not to It's all giving me reasons not to camp. So I'm going to slightly adjust my path here. The reasoning here is, yes, there's a curio, but there's a battle. If I go up here, I get 2 curios. Admittedly, there's an obstacle, but I get one of my room battles down, and I can decide either to sort of head down and to the left, but more likely I'll go up, down, and then, you know, just continue on my merry way here. I know the original path was... Actually, I guess this is pretty close to the original path anyway, but basically I'm saving myself this trip here, which in theory saves me a little bit more torchlight. I think Man-at-Arms is my better trap, or maybe the Musketeer. No, they're all 30%. Oh, turns out it's the Jester. That's a good work there, Cameroony. You know, the funny thing is, Johnny asked me about Total War, and I had a hard time coming up with a recommendation because it's a series I've always had a little difficulty managing.
A fortune, waiting to be spent.
This is as much about just freeing up inventory space as it is anything. We'll probably ditch one of the firewood.
Even the cold stone seems bent on preventing passage.
Alright, fight time. This shouldn't be too hard. See, the funny thing about Johnny, and I'm saying this just because he's in chat, is that I never really associate him/you with strategy gaming, and yet Johnny's done a great job of, like, giving me a run for my money in Chaos Reborn. Like I said, he's done my absolute favorite XCOM run, and he, let's think about this for a minute. Aimed shot probably makes the most sense here.
Precision and power.
Yeah, so I don't have any way of healing bleed.
Their cursed champion falls.
So, you know, he's done XCOM, he's done Chaos Reborn with me.
Mount, so too will
He's actually quite decent at strategy games. He may not play like the super hardcore stuff like I like you know, like Stellaris, I think he's still got on his to-do list, and like he hasn't played Europa Universalis or something like that. But I always kind of associate Johnny a little bit more with like battle royales, and that is actually quite unfair because he is very good at strategy games, and it's been some of the stuff that I've really enjoyed watching him play. He recently got Shogun 2. He's not into Japan at the time, so he skipped it when it came out. It's actually really good. I am told that Shogun 2 is supposed to be one of the better ones. I'm a bit of a sucker for like Roman stuff, so it's probably not surprised that I have a more favorable view of Rome 2 than I think most do. But of course, I've also played Rome 2 later in its development, or well, not development, but later in its life cycle. So I've got the benefit of all of the improvements that they made to the game, which people who originally got it and were excited for it didn't get to experience.
eradicated.
That's beautiful. Unfortunately, it does deny me the Iron Swan. Jesus. Okay, we ate our Wheaties on this run. I am mildly tempted to try and heal someone in the party.
The bigger the beast, the greater the glory.
There was a way that I could try and get the next heal, but it wasn't really worth the effort in my opinion.
Are often low on supplies.
One thing that surprised me about Warhammer is that I surprisingly enjoyed the vampire accounts. Because that is not necessarily a faction I was particularly fond of in like any of the Warhammer properties, but I find them very fun to play. Okay, so hopefully an Iron Swan here. This is nicely placed in the middle so I can do my harvest. Now it's not going to do much to the Bone Courtier, but it is potentially going to bleed out the Cultist Brawler. The idea here is to damage the second person who will do stress damage to me. I'll also try and inflict the bleed. Okay, got that. And again, I'm tempted to try and do the healing, but we've got 2 stress dealers, so let's just try and deal with the one in the back. You know what, that was dumb, because I was going to do the Iron Swan. I should have focused on the Courtier. Well, that was dealt with. That's really neat, Sungif. It sounds like a lot of work. I think the Total War 3 Kingdoms is an incredibly smart choice for them to go with. Because obviously they spend a lot of time developing the special generals for the, Warhammer, the Warhammer game. But if you think about it, the Romance of the Three Kingdoms is a really appropriate setting for those kinds of mechanics. And so, as a result, they don't wind up wasting all of that hard work that they put into, the other games in the franchise, while they can still go back to something historical that'll appeal to the historical fans. So I thought that was a particularly clever little bit of work. I don't think the skeleton key makes any difference here, but yeah. But it frees up something for the Onyx, so. I don't have a very compelling reason to camp in this room, but I might just to free up the space. Now I won't, because I'm actually running out of food. That was medieval to... Sorry, it was about the medieval period you're talking about. Yeah. Well, I was talking about this during Cultist Simulator yesterday, too. Like, one of the things I really respect about Weather Factory, in addition to their ability to make, interesting and unique games, is that, every developer is going to wind up with something like a design doc. But that is something internal that really doesn't get used by anyone. Like, that's really not seen by anyone outside of the studio. And yet they were able to turn that into a fairly desirable little... Like, I've got a USB of a bunch of design docs. And so what's really interesting about Weather Factory is the fact that they're able to create... from things that every developer will make, they're actually able to make a product that at least some subset of people want to buy, want to put money towards. And that just kind of speaks a little bit to the efficiency of their operation. Effectively, that's like a big part of that is what the producer does, right? That's Lottie's job. It's not exclusively Lottie, obviously. There are... I think the USB idea might have been something that Alexis brought up in the Kickstarter. But it's a decent example of how they're able to sort of extract value out of things that other studios don't. And so I'm always a little bit conscious when game developers do something like that, where it's like, oh, you know what, they spent some time developing this thing, but rather than just having it sit on the shelf and only exist for one game, they actually managed to do, you know, X, Y, or Z with it. And all right, map isn't this most important thing that I could find right now, but and so again, like as a player, I'm just happy to have good games. But as somebody who's interested in terms of, I mean, one of the things that I like checking out in terms of economics is how creative industries work, how they fit into the economy, and how their business conditions might be a little bit different. Because obviously, when people think of intellectual property, they tend to think of patents, but clearly copyright is also very important. And the fact that, you know, consider a company like Obsidian. There's obviously a lot of goodwill towards Obsidian in terms of their handling of the Fallout franchise. And but the fact of the matter is that Fallout is owned by Bethesda. And so whether or not people want a new Fallout game by Obsidian, you know, Obsidian might do very well with that property, but it's ultimately up to the owners of the Fallout franchise to decide whether or not Obsidian is going to be the one to handle that that property again. And of course, the fact that they're owned by Microsoft now probably makes that less likely than it might have been in the past. And this can be said, you know, a lot of different ways. So you know, if you look at Weather Factory, the next game, Book of Hours, is an original. That's an original game. It will be an interesting one to play in its own right, and probably more friendly to, you know, to new players. But they're not just abandoning the interest that comes from Cultist Simulator. It takes place in the same world, and what they've done instead is just taken that idea and sort of put a new twist on it to make it fresh to potentially a new audience.
Precipitates a dizzying fall.
I don't think there's anything I can do with the suit of armor. Oh yeah, I've got that more knightly aura. Okay, so clearly there's a fight waiting for me in this last room. Let me investigate. I sense the work of spirits. Oh, good work. Sentimental gifts are hidden inside. Alright, so this one's begging for an Iron Swan. So the reason I do Slice Off here is because the Bone Courtier is my higher priority, and I know I can't inflict bleed on any of these skeletons. And so I'm essentially just trying to maximize the damage. So aim shot, I'm going to take the third row because I know I have an Iron Swan. Drat. The only thing I really need to worry about is any stress damage. We should be able to get through this without too much trouble. Well, there's the stress.
Fear and frailty finally claim their due.
Okay, so this is due for an Iron Swan. Oh, that's interesting. What was the job that you were doing at the time, Sungif, if you don't mind me asking? Or I guess Myth.
Success so clearly in view.
Neat.
Or is it merely a trick of the light?
So obviously we're going to take the time to see what's inside here. I don't have a shovel. Oh, no, but I have the skeleton key. Cool. All right, well, obviously we don't need the firewood, so we'll ditch that. And clearly dumping the food makes the most sense, even though that food will be worth something.
More bones return to rest.
All right, let's see. So 7,500
Devils
for
remanded to their abyss.
the job. Yeah, I'm not going to complain about it. 1,600. It would have been nice to get a slightly different array of heirlooms, but honestly, you know, we don't have the ridiculous quantity of crests that we used to, and even just getting a little bit of, you know, just getting a little bit in terms of the deeds add up. Alright, so True Asgoth is now level 3. Looks like Camerooni wound up with scurvy somehow. They've developed deviant taste, so they can no longer go to the brothel. And Plagas now has slow reflexes. I'm going to send a few people to the sanitarium.
Perhaps things are not as bad as they seem.
One good week, and while the campaign continues to drag on, recent events have emboldened the standing roster. Confidence is reported to be at an all-time high. All idle heroes plus 200% stress heal received. Alright. Kite gambled and recovered 69 stress. Sharp is trying one on and refuses to leave the bar yet. Sharp has had a night on the town and recovered 70 stress. Boucher prayed and recovered 86 stress and is no longer masochistic. Mowbray prayed and recovered 86 stress and is no longer abusive. Machault meditated and recovered 84 stress and is no longer abusive. Okay. First things first. Let's kick out the level 3 and the stressed. Okay, so the 2 musketeers are gonna drink. It's kind of tempting to take Camerooni on another trip. Oh man, 5 deeds. We might run into the thing from the stars, but 5 deeds is a really tasty reward. Okay, so new Necromancer. That'll definitely be a fight that I want to take on, but maybe now is not the time for that. Yeah, so I'm not crazy about the fact that he's got scurvy, but sort by level. This is going to be another batch of sort of leveling. So effectively my choices here are Kite, Machault. I mean, this is not a bad position. Actually, according to this, they're a really good position too. Goyat is also really tempting. This is the wield, so I don't need to worry about that. Flagellants are definitely very strong. I kind of already have healers. I think I'm going to bring them. Blood and Guts. Alright. Before we do this, I have a little bit of spare cash, so let's just see if there's anything else that I can get rid of in the town. So, I mean, casual nothing's not really worth spending the money on the healing for. So, does anybody have diseases? No. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of my higher leveled people And I'm going to start getting rid of their negative quirks. So, casual, nothing. Let's treat you for... I hate how expensive this is going to be, but let's start by getting rid of clumsy. 17. Next thing, I think I'm going to try and upgrade a few of these people. I want to be careful on the expense. I'm not sure what SFO means, but Britonia is sort of a bunch of dudes who walk around saying "milady." And I believe Morgana Le Fay is one of the characters you can play at the beginning. But you know that Johnny loves dwarves, so I feel like telling him to do anything that's not a dwarf is just giving him an excuse to get angry. Okay, this is going to be a little tough. Well, no, actually, it's medium with 90. Explore 90%. No, this should be all right. If we run into the thing from the stars, we might have a bit of trouble. But overall, this should be okay. I don't have a stress heal with this guy, but I spent the money on. I spent the money on. Upgrades. Is that what Chalks thinks of you? What, that you like dwarves or that you yell at people? I don't think I've ever heard you yell at someone. That's more of a me thing.
Now they are as twisted as my own ambitions.
So whenever I run into these like explore 90% of rooms, I always take these little offshoots because they just like eliminate something right away. Okay, this will be pretty straightforward, I think. See, because it's not Johnny. If it was Johnny, you would have kicked that thing's ass.
Back to the pit.
I mean, one of the funny things about it, Johnny, is a lot of it winds up really calculated, I hate to admit. In person, I tend not to be like that. But there's definitely something about streaming which tends to lend itself to a much more aggressive tone with people who are being asses. And I'm not entirely sure if that's a good thing. It just happens to be that's the way it's kind of turned out for me. Bleed Charm.
As victories mount,
not really
so
worth it in my opinion, but we can always sell that if we get in trouble. This is one thing that I probably haven't appreciated enough is that I don't make a lot of use of trinkets, and I probably should be selling them more often than not. But the nice thing about
a victim to the spreading corruption.
The nice thing about the way that I hand...
Misintent.
Sorry, I keep talking over Mr. June. One of the things that's sort of nice about the way that I neglect them is I have like this bank, so if I get in trouble, I can sell a bunch really quickly and wind up ahead of the game. See, Johnny, like I said, they're the milady people. So I'm not hitting the back row just because I have the Iron Swan.
Executed with impunity. A devastating blow.
Doge v. Doge.
Another abomination cleansed from our lands. Great is the weapon that cuts on its own. The slow death unforeseen, unforgiving.
Treasures are encased within the rain. $50. We're getting pretty lucky in terms of all the surprises. I think I'm gonna do the... So the nice thing about having Dazzling Light as my primary attack is it always gives me a little more light. Okay, that thing's done.
Another one falls.
Doge v Spider.
Press this advantage. Give them no quarter. Be wary.
By the way, Johnny, there will be a test on all of this at the end of the cast.
The match is struck. A blazing star is born.
Okay, so I'm not too crazy about this obstacle because we've had cases where there are 3 in the... who has my highest disease resist? It's all pretty grim. We have had three obstacles in the past, and it looks like it's going to be... There's really not going to be anything we can do to get past it, but we're also getting close to the end of the quest, so... Now, one approach that I could take would be to camp to sort of recharge my torch. Let's see what we've got coming up. 2 fights in an empty room. I think I'm gonna go for it. Apparently I neglected to check out the old tree. This run's been pretty kind to me so far. They've doubled the number of negative quirks they've had by going on this run. Oh, Jesus Christ!
Twisted and made merciless.
Oh boy. Okay, this is going to be character building, so let's buff everyone.
A brilliant confluence of skill and purpose.
Highwayman's going to be the biggest problem. Iron Swan is definitely going to be doing the Lord's work here. Okay, harvest time.
Ringing ears, blurred vision.
I hate you, game.
The end approaches. Such
Jesus.
a terrible assault cannot be left unanswered.
Hello, Karosh. How you doing? Would be tempting to do lick wounds, but I think going aggressive on the collector is the trick to all this. Hopefully, yes. So I wanted to be able to heal before he ticked down with the bleed.
Precision and power.
If you hate this game so much, I can play a game called Aratus. That's definitely is no shortage of fans, that's for sure. Ah, the game got smart. The collector opens his trench coat to reveal 3 midget collectors in a trench coat.
And now the true test.
Gross.
Hold fast.
And I just lost the Iron Swan.
Time to perform beyond one's limits.
Oh, please don't hit the Jester. So this would be a great excuse for me to heal up, or to camp after. That's gonna get ugly.
Teetering on the brink, facing the abyss.
No!
Inspiration and improvement. Continue the onslaught. Destroy them all. A predator is often blind to its own peril. This expedition at least promises success.
Puzzling Trapezohedron, 3,500. Well, that's a decent consolation prize. So the way I'm going to handle this, I got 2 rounds of this nonsense, so I'm just going to take a bite of food each time he's... Ooh. Well, this is mixed, to be honest.
Well struck.
Ah!
A decisive.
I was hoping the Vestal would be moving next.
Slowly, gently. This is how a life is taken.
It's not that bad because I have like a campfire, but like it went from being almost trivial to like, oh wow, this is getting a little scary.
As the fiend falls, a faint hope blossoms.
Ooh, that's gonna sting.
Confidence surges as the enemy crumbles.
Okay, I think I can ditch the medicinal herbs. So the good news is it's an empty room.
Perched at the very precipice of oblivion.
Okay, so Camerooni is no longer bleeding, so I'm gonna move him ahead. And we're not going to be able to heal everyone, but
Circle in
we'll
the
have a
dark.
feast.
The battle may yet be won.
And let's do what we can. Interesting. None of these people have oh no. There was 1 heal. Yikes. I was not anticipating that. And I believe so we might get ambushed at night. And let's release the hounds just for the scouting chance. So I've got enough for 2 hunger, and my Vestal should be able to heal up the remaining. Of course.
May indeed stalk these shadows, but yonder.
Get him, boy! I'm not ready to do a finale yet.
Unnerved, unbalanced. unwound.
I don't normally like doing Divine Comfort, but this time I can justify it.
Sedated. Eradicated.
This guy's taking so much blight damage.
Their formation is broken. Maintain the offensive.
So he might die.
As life ebbs, terrible vistas of emptiness reveal themselves. Decimated.
Okay, got a little lucky there. Oh, this is all gonna suck. Well, at least he didn't deliver a Crimson Curse as a final FU.
Annihilated. Seize this momentum. Push on to the task's end.
Just 1 second, I gotta send a quick Twitch DM. Okay, this is gonna suck. Thank God. Okay. Oh, this went from being such an easy run to a disaster. A disaster. Right. I don't know what's behind here, so I gotta switch everyone around. Oops. Oh, I see. I'm not playing the game anymore. It's chat's got it for me.
Exposed to a killing blow.
All right. These things don't do too much damage and they're easy to take out, so this is gonna be a bit of a risky approach. But I'm gonna try and just maximize my healing. So yeah, the problem here is if they blight too many times, then I'm at a net loss. But the idea here is going to be that I heal the Jester and the Houndmaster. Houndmaster takes care of himself. I don't know if you can see DMs, Johnny, but hopefully you're amused. Okay. Yeah, why not? Again, I don't exactly want to take these things out right away because I'm going to be able to get some healing in. As long as they don't stack up too much blight, I should be walking out with more health than I came in with. I wanted to prioritize the venomous one. I think they all can give blight, but the other one can give a little bit more. And at least the Jester's going to be on top, although obviously the Jester is not my highest priority. That was really just because I could. Let's get rid of the Holy Water. Well, yeah, we'll get rid of the Holy Water. In theory, I could find uses for it, and like the Blade Amulet would not be a terrible choice. Yes, I have looked at the trailer, but I don't have it, so. Originally said the Blight. Biggest thing for me about trinkets are that the game, I mean, it's a really clever thing that the game has done, which is every trinket takes something away as well as grants it. And the thing is that I'm very risk averse, so I tend not to like the penalties that I pay. In particular, these few here with a lower dodge, obviously because I'm feeling particularly nervous about my character's health, I don't really want to equip those. The thing that makes this really tempting, of course, is that there is the Blight Amulet, which is good at resisting Blight, which has been causing me problems in the group. So originally I didn't equip this one because I didn't see any reason. So in between like giving a negative to bleed resist versus maybe one day being able to use the Holy Water for something, I figured the Holy Water was the better sacrifice than loss of bleed. But portraits are really important for me. So in this particular case, I'm going to give the Jester the Blight Amulet, the idea here being that this is somebody who doesn't have a self-heal, and I would rather not waste time healing them, and I'm setting them up here. Of course, if I run into somebody who does bleed, this might actually come back to bite me, but in this case, because I like portraits and I don't want to lose anything else in my inventory, that's why I made the particular decision that I did. Hello, Casual Nothing. Friday's not doing bad, and post-work chalk. Hopefully it's worth it. It's been fun. I certainly really enjoy Darkest Dungeon.
Ambushed by foul invention.
I was debating on playing Diablo, but clearly it's stream time, so I can handle that. Well, it looks like we made the right call by bringing the key along.
Wealth beyond measure. Awarded to the brave and the foolhardy alike.
If I need, I can ditch the doggy treats too. But obviously, I can keep those in my back pocket in case I need them. What did you get to drink, Johnny? I know you drink, like, the amount of water you drink makes me ashamed about my own subdued water consumption, but it sounds like you made something special. Yeah, the funny thing about Diablo is I'm not entirely sure I'd stream it very well. Diablo's a bit of a furniture game for me, so like it's something that I really enjoy playing with someone because we just kind of get to talk about whatever, or I watch it with like a movie on in the background. Bring it, you hideous... All right. Oh, I had the impression that you didn't drink. Oh man, I've actually got... I'm just about to finish off some Johnny Walker. Okay, if this fight goes well, I'm gonna walk off and I'm gonna make myself something special. I think stacking the bleed's gonna be the... Oh, you know what? This is a time for doggy treats. I have Johnny Walker Black. I also have the Johnny White Walker, but Johnny White Walker is mixed. It's definitely a you have to be in the mood. Okay, so this will heal someone if they destroy it. This thing's got 5 HP. Oh, that sucks. Okay. Okay, well, we know who's getting the heals.
Masterfully executed.
Five damage? Jesus Christ. Oh, this game hates me so much.
Adversity can foster hope and resilience.
Oh! Get him! Oh, actually, I should have targeted the crystalline aberration. Okay, Hound targets this next time. Nice. This frees up my healer to do some magic. Well, obviously I need to pile on the bleed. Ah, okay. Can I just keep this Houndmaster this way forever? This 80 prot is gonna be the death of me. As long as he doesn't heal, I'm good though. Okay, so every heal I can pop off I should take. Well, we know everybody's gonna go hungry anyway, so enjoy a snack, guys. Oh yeah, BRB, dudes. Thank you, Casual Nothing. Yes, so,
Oh man, it tastes like poison!
Alright. Having followed Johnny's example, I got myself a little something for that fight. Let's continue adventuring because I'm an idiot. Let's not continue adventuring because I don't have any shovels.
Paths and roads bring soldiers and supplies. Let them arrive unharried.
Alright, so we're up sort of 1,500 from that, and admittedly we didn't get a ton in terms of heirlooms, but we did get a bunch of deeds, which is something that we need, so... And more importantly, we got some new people up to level 3, so... We've got a Stress Eater, Prismatic Stability... And I think Cam Rooney has earned his opportunity to get rid of Scurvy.
Trouble yourself not with the cost of this crusade. Its noble end affords you broad tolerance in your choice of means.
Oops. Okay, so first things first, get rid of your Scurvy. Figure we've probably got some stressed out people who need... Alright, so... Get you some booze. Mowbray is scientific, apparently. I think we can afford to put Plagas in the... Plagas in recovery just because they're level 3 now. Obviously Camerooni will have to get recovery later. Yep, actually, now's not a bad time to review. So the people that we've lost, Brond was the first to die, Apprentice Jester who bled out, Reynold died, Adventurer Crusader met their end against a Bone Soldier, Jamie, named after Jamie Sam, died in week 14, was an Apprentice Vestal and met their end against a Crocodilian. That was, of course, one of our first encounters with the Crimson Court. Velkin was a veteran leper and bled out on week 23. Captain Zerge in week 30 was a Master Crusader and wasted away from the Crimson Curse for lack of the blood. That was the first time we found out that that mechanic works that way. Gand was a Seeker's Shield Breaker, succumbed to the Blight on week 31. Danvers also died on week 31. Seeker Antiquarian also succumbed to Blight. Johnny Big Time in week 32, he was a Master Houndmaster and fell to the hand of an ally, whereas Ed Baver was a Master Vestal who was slain by a vile Crocodilian. El Dolby died on week 33, they were Apprentice Crusader and bled out. Kanagiris, again, not a viewer. Seeker Bounty Hunter had a heart attack due to unsustainable stress. It's also Veshi died for the same reason on week 33. And Kali was a Seeker Antiquarian, also had a heart attack. So generally not a good round for everyone. Roussel died on week 39 due to unsustainable stress, along with Mandeville in the same expedition. And our last death, Mo Travers, Seeker Bounty Hunter, also had a heart attack due to unsustainable stress. I find that hard to believe that so many people have died to stress, but 10 weeks since deaths to stress. Karash apparently has no faith in me. Right. I am mildly tempted to try the homestead. Stave Off Sickness is also tempting because of the deeds, the money, and the fact that it's Gather 3 medicine. Problem is I may not... Yeah, I don't actually have the crew for it. Oh, maybe I do. Guyot, Meshul. Can kite pillow position 3? You can. Hey! Alright. I was originally going to try the farmstead because I've not actually done too much with it. It's also tempting to try and go after the Necromancer again. But I think this gives me a nice little combination of a decent amount of deeds, some money. Caregivers Convention is not the worst event. That extermination definitely gives some decent coin. Yeah, other than the fact that the thing from the stars might show up, this is not the worst time for me to do this. So what I am going to do, I'm going to take a quick minute here and see if there's any upgrades that I can do to the group. Looks like everybody wants something. Okay, so we're looking at about... That's a lot of money to be spending on these two guys. I think we're going to hold off on those upgrades, but let's just... I am going to make sure that we have some decent healing. I mean, these aren't that expensive, so... Stunning Blow is slightly better. Kite's a little too good at what he does right now. Yeah, we don't have a lot of money, so I'm going to hold back a little bit on the upgrades for now. What I really should be doing at this point is saving up some cash so that I can have like a super team that comes in after the Necromancer. I might have closed the door on that, but we'll see. It's a medium size, so... I am going to need to have enough space for the goodies. So I'm going to undervalue torches here. On the assumption that I'm going to be able to use the firewood to reignite the torch if I need.
Our land is remote and unneighbored. Every lost resource must be recovered.
I think it's pretty unlikely we're going to find medicine in that back room, but better to check it out now than... Alright, that thing's done. I gave him the wrong loadout. I wanted to stun the ectoplasm just to make sure it didn't make his buddy come back. Okay, that's dealt with. Ah! I hit the wrong button. That's fine, we still have other people with...
Annihilated.
So the thing that I'm really worried about with those guys is not so much the stress as the torch damage that they do. Okay, again, another pair of stress dealers. I also forgot to give the guy the stun ability again. Jesus Christ! I think the bleed will be enough to take this guy out, and then we'll use the musketeer to nail the spellcaster.
Obliterated.
So the good news is that these guys don't have any, they don't have anything to sort of like mark with, so they'll be a little less scary.
Slowly, gently. This is how a life is taken.
So prioritize the front row first because my musketeer can only attack thing. Well, I mean, they can do the pistol shot, but basically they can attack second row and behind.
Their formation is broken. Maintain the offensive.
And some heirlooms are nice. Okay, so I'm gonna ditch Inspiring Cry because I already have Battle Heal, and we'll take Stunning Blow. Zealous Accusation would be kind of nice to get as well, but that would have cost me 800, and then I think 200 for an upgrade, so it's just a little too expensive for me. All right, I think what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna check out the secret door, and then we're gonna back off to. This is partially torch preservation, and this is also just dealing with the fact that we don't have any grain. Or medicine we're looking for, not grain.
The light.
Okay, no key,
the promise
but...
of safety.
Do I have anything cool I want to abandon? Yes, holy water.
Mind that such missteps are the exception, and not the rule.
Possibly medicine? Not sure. Okay, they're gonna probably do some damage to my torch. I don't want to waste the hail just on that back row when I've got the musketeer. Sometimes the musketeer can one-shot them, not always though. I think a finish him can take, yes.
Continue the onslaught. Destroy them.
I probably should have dealt with the second row. I think I have bandages. I mean, it's only 3 damage, but...
Press disadvantage. Give them no quarter.
So the reason I didn't prioritize the front row there was I knew I had sort of 3 people.
So too will resistance.
I kind of had 3 people to deal with the character anyway, so in this case it didn't make sense to sort of free things up for the musketeer. I mean, in a technical sense, it would have maximized my chances, but I didn't really want to leave the guy with a lot of health standing. Probably turns out that isn't medicine. This one is mildly tempting to do the Rain of Sorrows. I think I'm going to try to finish him first, though. So the problem with this is by spreading out the damage, I might have just signed myself up for multiple rounds of having my torch reduced. This guy needs to heal. Well, I think they'll manage. So 2, 3. So we can start working on this guy now.
Great is the weapon that cuts on its own. As the fiend falls, a faint hope blossoms.
It's not the bravest choice that I could have made, but in this particular case, I've got a nice little opportunity to heal up my Crusader.
seem unforgiving.
I wasn't quite banking on that guy getting a dodging, but obviously that helped. And this guy's got prot, 33% prot and 9 health, so it's pretty unlikely. Like with smite, I'm going to deal 5 to 9 damage, so I'm just going to try and go for the stun instead. So now I get another round where I'm able to beat him up.
Confidence surges as the enemy crumbles.
And now I have some hard decisions to make.
Or is it merely a trick of the light?
I'm gonna hold out the possibility that I'm gonna use my campfire still, and I'm gonna get rid of the antidote. That would have been so frustrating. So we're gonna free up some space with the 2 shovels, but that's not really the reason I would like to use shovels.
Nature herself, a victim to the spreading corruption, malformed with misintent.
I don't really have any reason to use the campfire right now, so I might as well use up all my torches. That'll still give me free space. Ah! I don't know if this is a new thing or not, but 3 obstacles in 1 round is so frustrating.
Shuddering, crystalline bulk.
Gross! I wanted my Crusader to get that. So the reason I'm doing the stunning blow, even though it's a very remote chance, this guy's protection is so high that it doesn't really... Like, a direct attack doesn't actually do that much. Cool.
Anger is power. Unleash it.
So the idea here is if I get like a 1 in a million, if I get like a 1 in a million stun on him, I get that 33% damage modifier, whereas just a direct attack is nothing special.
Another abomination cleansed from our lands.
Hey, Massimo Goman, X-Alpha. Yeah, I mean, I have not gotten that far in this game. I'm pretty sure this run is like the furthest that I've gone in Darkest Dungeon. Obviously, I like the Canadian connection. I lived in Vancouver, and Red Hook is based in Vancouver. It's an incredibly well-done game, and, you know, the developers behind it seem to be very decent people. So it's cool to support stuff like that. But yeah, it's an incredibly fun game. All right.
Remind yourself that overconfidence is a slow and insidious killer.
So I can live with this. What I can't live with is the...
Without tools of iron, you must rely on flesh and indefatigable purpose.
Ah, well. The hero is distraught by the sight of the carcass. Do I have a fight coming up? No. So I think, because my lantern's getting low anyway, I think now is time to make camp.
Circle in the dark. The battle may yet be won.
Okay, let's see. I have no protection against ambushes. So start with wound care. Stress might be kind of nice. Lash's Kiss is kind of tempting here. So plan takedown is not the worst choice. Thing is, I don't know how many size 2 we're going to be going up against. Are they going to do Lash's Kiss instead? Party minus 15 stress. I mean, the stress damage has already been done, really, but... Yeah, Zealous Speech. No, I will save my blessings for when I need them most. Yikes! Hello, Distorted Say. How you doing? Of course they do.
Haunting the hearts of men.
Ah! I am going to destroy this on a point of principle.
Destroyed. Precision and power. Mortality clarified in a single strike.
And stay down!
In Radiance, may we find victory.
Thank you, Casual
Packs
Nothing.
laden with loot are often low on supplies.
Alright, so unless there's like 3 medicine at the very end here, it looks like I am going to have to go after this battle. I didn't think it worked that way, but I've been mistaken before. I hate you.
Paid for in blood.
So the reasoning behind me letting this lantern go down is just so that I can split the the darker times a little more evenly. Probably should have saw who had the higher disease resist before doing that, but okay. I think the bounty hunter's the best at taking out traps. Yeah. Now I did say I was going to underinvest in torches, so this isn't like. This isn't the worst thing that could happen to me. It's really just the stress that is causing me a bit of a worry.
Back to the pit. A powerful blow.
That bleed's not great, but I've got bandages, so. Yeah, the thing that's really neat about this Casual Nothing is that the... So there was a post by Jeff Vogel recently. So basically the what's the best way for me to put this? His article, so like Jeff Vogel runs a company called Spiderweb Soft, and I think they've been in business for like 20 years or something like that. But the thing is that they make these... there's a very dedicated audience for these RPGs, but it is also very common for people to talk about how they don't look very good. In fact, I think like the post is called why do your games look like crap or something like that. For those of you who follow on Twitter, like I retweeted some commentary on that. And he actually gave an example of The Darkest Dungeon, which is obviously made by a fairly small development team, all things considered. Obviously a bunch of contractors. And he had a really good insight on it, which is to say that Darkest Dungeon actually has relatively few art assets. They are very well done. Obviously, Chris Barassa is a very talented artist. But one of the things that I think is so impressive about Darkest Dungeon is how it makes... Like, when you talk about the atmosphere for the game, obviously the music and the art, all of that comes together to create a wonderful atmosphere. But I think one of the other things that isn't as appreciated in this game is how they really use... It's like they're using every part of the buffalo for this. Like, if you look at that original cinematic, like, remember there's that altar with, like, the tentacle? Like, there's assets from the dungeons which are used in the opening cutscene. And I think, like, it's really neat to sort of see an indie developer who's trying to cover the common... comment that he gets about his games not looking visually impressive, and to sort of say it's like, the ones that you associate with these very powerful visuals, it's not to say that The Darkest Dungeon isn't a good-looking game. It is, but I think one of the things that is so impressive about The Darkest Dungeon is not just the craftsmanship behind it, which is admittedly very good, but it's also how they make the most with what they've got. Which is one of the things that you tend not to think very... Like when I sit down and look at The Darkest Dungeon, I don't think, oh, hey, I've seen that thing before. That's really neat that they were able to make the most of that resource. But as you say, like, it's hard to think of games that are... Like, one of the first things you think of when you think of The Darkest Dungeon is atmospheric. And then...
If only treasure could staunch the flow of otherworldly corruption.
Obviously, having just come off of reading that article, I'm sort of thinking to myself, yeah, and then on top of that, you know, they're accomplishing all of this with maybe fewer resources than what people would normally think. I don't know, the first Witcher, like, compared to our modern standards, absolutely that is you know, not the best looking game. Oh god, the really tough question here is, do I want to risk starving again? Yes, I do. Money is super important. I can't believe I'm doing this. I mean, I'm gonna have to give up another thing anyway, but... but like, The Witcher is a very good-looking game compared to the things Jeff Vogel's talking about.
The darkness holds much worse than mere trickery and boogeymen.
I'm trying to think of some examples of games that have, like, are visually unimpressive, but I'll admit, I tend not to play a lot of them. Like, Spiderweb Soft's games I've largely ignored because of their look, and I feel bad that I do that. But I do.
A decisive pummeling. A trifling victory.
Clearly,
But a victory
500
nonetheless.
versus 750. This is a pretty straightforward choice to make. Oh, do I want to risk this? Who's got the zoophobia again? Quirk reinforced. Ah! I should have seen that coming, in fairness. I'm gonna be so mad if the thing I need is way in the back there. Well, can't reinforce the reinforcement. Poor kite. My favorite was when somebody got syphilis from one of these bodies. I'm like, what were you doing to that?
A singular strike.
Oh, actually, one game I can say that really worked for me, despite a lack of an art style, was Universal Paperclips. People also use Thomas Was Alone as an example of one, but I haven't actually played that. So.
Death by inches.
Oh boy. Okay. So obviously we're making decisions now in terms of how we maximize our returns. So we've got 375 versus 750. So I mean, it's equivalent here. So now the question is, which of these do I drop for the medicine? Makes me sad to leave the money, but
These medicines will prevent the outbreak of epidemic at our struggling hamlet.
well, it's just like, it's the opportunity cost, right? Like, the fact of the matter is that getting like one skill upgrade's worth of gold is really straightforward in pretty much any dungeon that I do. But shards, I need to make special trips to get normally. So in this case, just the fact that in order to obtain one, I need to dedicate a trip versus, you know, another one where I just kind of wind up, you know, oh, okay, I guess I just don't upgrade my skill this round. I do it the second one. It just seems to me that it makes more sense to go for the rarer object in those cases. But yeah, I mean, overall, I'm not too upset with the haul from that. So
The preponderance of rare and exotic injuries makes this place perfect for the study of suffering.
yeah, Exelfi. I mean, it's why, like, so one of the reasons I get kind of crabby about backseating is that I know my playstyle is different from other people's, and this was I actually kind of learned a lot of I learned the way that I play games largely out of playing Dota 2, because I really disliked this idea that there's one meta and that you only play that, because it sort of implies that like the top players are the only ones who kind of get to decide how certain things are done. And I always found it really rewarding to discover, how I liked playing a particular character. So like, I really liked the character Vengeful Spirit, and one reason why I liked it was because, it wasn't particularly that skilled, and so when you're playing low skill in Dota 2, generally the matches go very long. And so one of the reasons why you can have sort of these 5-core teams and win in the low skill bracket is that like low skilled players tend not to know how to take advantage of situations, and so the games just go longer because people aren't taking advantage of situations, and in that particular case everybody has enough time to sort of farm up and do what they need. And so Vengeful Spirit tended to scale up very well in those conditions, but it still allowed me to play that support role, which I really enjoyed doing. But one of the other things is that while I wouldn't put them as a good mid-hero in like a standard game, it was something I could kind of make work in the games that I was at, and you'd never run into somebody who says, Vengeful Spirit should be played mid. But in context, it's something that can sort of work in a pinch. Like if somebody's just given up on the mid because they didn't get what they wanted, you can fill in. So again, if you just sit down and read guides to stuff, you're never going to get, you're never going to like think about what you have in the given moment, and so be able to do creative stuff like that. I would never say, I invented mid-venge. Like, I'm sure a lot of terrible players have tried it and have gotten their asses kicked as a result. But that was kind of the formative experience of like, whether or not I do well, I value being able to engage with stuff and sort of find my own path through them. It doesn't mean that I don't look at guides for anything, like especially if it's a game that I want to sort of master. So like Europa Universalis, I'll kick the tires on some things, and then when I want to learn how particular skills interact, or not skill, how to particular concepts interact, then I'll consult the guide because I'm looking for a specific reference. But I tend not to like looking at like strategy guides for how to play a particular country, because to me that's the experience of playing the game. So the thing, the reason why I bring up the backseating in that is that most people either have followed a guide or they have an idea about how the game is played. But the thing is that I could not justify an additional 25 shards having never spent them at all. But as you say, when you look at the idea of opportunity cost and saying, in this situation where I need, what are the worlds in which I'm going to need shards, and where I'm going to say, I really wish I had 25 shards right now. Well, that world says I'm going to the windmill, and I better hope that I'm equipped to handle the windmill because, maybe I have all my level 3 characters having just finished like a boss fight or something like that. It's like, where's the world where I say I need 500, 800 gold? Well, yes, I'd like an extra skill. And, it's clearly when you think of those two situations, like it's an easy choice. But I think very few people tend to think of those kinds of trade-offs that way, and a lot of that is just part of my education. So obviously you didn't ask for a commentary on that, but that's it's just a nice little way of sort of explaining where I come from. It's why I sometimes seem really well, not seem like it's why I am kind of stubborn sometimes in terms of my way of playing games, just because sometimes it's a matter of experimentation and seeing which things work and which things don't. And the other thing too is I like, because it's idiosyncratic to me, I also I don't like generalizing to other people. Like, I would never say playing any game the way I play it is the way to be done. But it does make multiplayer really interesting for stuff when I play it, because obviously it's an opportunity to sort of test some of these thoughts that I have. Okay, among the visiting delegation are experts in corporeal and cognitive disability, as well as several forensic specialists. So there is an argument for me to try and upgrade the sanitarium to take advantage of this, but I'm not 100% sure if I want to do that yet. Plaga Saturnight on the town has recovered 70 stress. Bouchier has developed a reliance on spirits and is now a tippler, but they recovered 70 stress. Mowbray has achieved constant calm, Newcourt calm, but they did gain 70 stress reduction. And Camerooni underwent effective disease treatment and cured scurvy. Okay. Kite will lose his rabies. I don't think anybody else has any other diseases. What am I giving up? So... I might take the opportunity, to be honest. Yep.
Experimental techniques and tonics can overcome things a sharpened sword cannot.
Okay, so what I'm going to do here... so one of the challenges here is that I'm not actually going to be using sharp, but I kind of want to get rid of some of these negative traits. I'm actually going to deal with casual nothing first, because here's the thing about sharp. So tippler, I'm not too worried about the fact that this is like locked in. Hylomania, again, obsessed with material things, is not the worst negative trait I can get. Ruins phobe, okay, I'm a little more worried about that, but of course they're level 6, and there's other things I can send them to, like I can send them to the Darkest Dungeon. We could do, clumsy, we could do wield phobe. Clumsy is actually one that I might consider, but again, the thing I want to try and prioritize are the expensive ones to get rid of. So Diurnal sort of seems to be one of the highest priority. Well, actually, if Torch is below, Slow Draw is probably better. Okay, I will get rid of Slow Draw on this one. Ego's got to have something that I want to get rid of. Stress Eater actually has wound up doing more damage to me than any of these others, but I will get rid of Calm. Surgeons make my hands faster. Okay. I do have blueprints, but I mean the problem here is, like, I'm not spending 15. Like, in one, well, I also don't have the paintings for it. Like, everything here is just not in my price range. So in terms of the stuff that I would get advantages for, like, this is all sort of intended for people who are much richer than I am. All right, let's... Just gonna chuck out the crew. So the next thing I want to deal with is basically stress. So Collier is a bad gambler, but it's obsessed with the paranormal, so congratulations, you're drinking. Camerooni, deviant tastes, resolution, Plutomania. All right, well, Plutomania, congratulations, you're gambling. Okay. I gotta think about what mission I'm going on. Also, I think I need to refill my beverages. So I am really tempted to go after the Necromancer. I don't think I have a good Crusader. See, the thing is it would be better if I had a good Crusader to take on this one. And I don't. The Brigand 12-pounder... Yeah, I can see that one working, actually. So we bring Plagas for the Iron Swan. Kyle be in the front row. Maybe Ren for a... Or maybe I'd bring Fuller to... I think Dismas actually makes a little more sense here, because that gives me a second, like the pistol shot gives me a little extra. It is tempting to bring Sin or Mojo Storm. You can also bring Cool Eagle for the stress reduction. The only thing I'm not crazy about on this one is that I could have better damage. Random thought, but imagine being the man who voice acts for this game. He can just walk around and whip out Darkest Dungeon voice to make any situation more intense. Yeah, so that's like having the Inception sound whenever you want it. Wayne is like a cult hero in the Darkest Dungeon community. He has done some work for streamers too. Yeah, so Kevin Rega, I got to talk to Kevin Regami about this. He's the guy at Power Up Audio, and the idea of the Ancestral Bestowment, where they gave like a bunch of streamers who had played the game custom voices. I can't remember how many hours they spent recording it, but that was a really cool idea that they had. Money's gonna be tight. Oh, Jesus Christ, 3,000. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm definitely gonna upgrade the money for my aggressive. Nah, you know what? It's just gonna be these two. Iron Swan's definitely getting an upgrade. Pistol shot. Yeah. I'm kind of putting everything into this run, but I think it'll be worth it. Oh, Jesus, I gotta deal with my stress dudes. Yeah, I got a lot of people. Okay. Scientific Witness, Tone Deaf, ANSI. I think I'm gonna be under geared for the boss. But that's fine, it makes things exciting. Oh, 6,000? Jesus Christ. Yeah, this is gonna be it's gonna be character building, that's for sure. Let's bring an extra shovel just because that's caused misery. Yep, I'm going for it.
The wild whispers of heresy roused the rabble to violent action. Such was the general air of rebellion that even my generous offer of gold to the local constabulary was rebuffed. To reassert my rule, I sought out unscrupulous men skilled in the application of force. Tight-lipped and terrifying, these mercenaries brought with them a war machine of terrible implication. The smell of sulfur and gunpowder hangs in the air. The war machine is close.
The only other thing I should have considered was the scouting. Oh yeah, and trinkets, but I'm always bad at remembering trinkets.
Mind that such missteps are the exception, and not the rule.
But yeah, so it'd be nice if I had the better scouting, because obviously that'll give me the intelligence that I need about whether or not I want to commit certain resources. But we should be able to get through it.
Nature herself, a victim to the spreading corruption, malformed with misintent.
Well, you know, Karash, one of the things, so I've been a bit lucky in the sense that I have wound up with a decent vocabulary, and one of the reasons for it is my dad used to watch British comedies, like Yes Minister and Rumble of the Bailey and stuff like that, so
As the fiend falls,
it translated into me seeing a lot of things that that use sort of more, I don't know, highfalutin English, for lack of a better term. And one of the things that sort of helped me maintain that is when I run into a word that I'm unfamiliar with, I always take that as an opportunity to go to the dictionary. I'm just gonna deal with the stress right now. And so, like, one of the things, like, the idea, this is the funny thing about Darkest Dungeon, like, the ideas that Darkest Dungeon talks about are actually very straightforward ones. Like, most of the time, what the story is saying, or the lore is saying, is, you know, I wanted this thing to happen, and something bad happened instead. Like, 9 times out of 10, that is like the actual translation of what's going on. But obviously, it takes on this sort of, or they use this overwrought style because that's a little bit more consistent with how the source material for, well, not for source material, but sort of the inspired, or the source of inspiration for this game is. Obviously, Lovecraft has a particular way of writing. So actually, you know what? I have the Call of Cthulhu just over to the side here. So just 1 second, I'll give you an example. Yeah, I know it's like, it's so silly when I put it in those terms, but like, that is 9 times out of 10, like, that is the yeah, I can understand that. I can understand growing up in a communist regime is not the. So, like, this is the Call of Cthulhu. I'm not going to do a Wayne June voice or anything like that, but I'm going to skip over the opening quotation for this. And here's the opening paragraph of the Call of Cthulhu. 1. The horror in the clay. The most merciful thing in the world, I think, is the inability of the human mind to correlate all its contents. We live on a placid island of ignorance, in the midst of black seas of infinity, and it was not meant that we should voyage far. The sciences, each straining in their own direction, have hitherto harmed us little, but someday the piecing together of disconnected knowledge will open up such terrifying vistas of reality and of our frightful position therein that we shall either go mad from the revelation or free the deadly light into the peace and safety of a new dark age. So, I mean, essentially all that's saying there is that it's a good thing that we haven't actually figured out what's going on, because the truth behind the universe would break us. It's a really bleak opening, and it's a really great opening. I've actually, if you guys want to know, so there's tons of little stories that I've had in the back of my head, and I don't know if I turn them into like short stories or games. But the funny thing for me is that when I sit down, and like, what this betrays actually is my utter lack of imagination. When I think of cosmic horror, I actually think a really good subject for cosmic horror would be sort of like a Fortune 500 company. Because when I think of like the scale of a kind of company like ExxonMobil or Apple or anything like that, something with, you know, operations all across the world, all with these intricate pieces, all trying to maximize their return, To me, that is almost unfathomable. Like, clearly there is a CEO, clearly there is a board of directors. I can conceptualize of it. In fact, anytime I do economics, I abstract these things into pretty simple objects with an objective function. But when I actually sit down, in the and try and just think about the entire structure of this thing and how it works, I actually realize how little of it I can keep inside of my head. And so I always sort of thought that there was some material. And I mean, obviously, if you want to put like a more sort of, a bit of an anti-capitalist spin to it, I think you could do that. But I really think that there is something about the scope of business activities and sort of the flow. And I mean, especially when you get these things like flash crashes and whatnot, or the idea that like recessions are really bad things, mortality goes up, and people's wages go down if they keep their jobs at all. And the fact that these are things that we scare, I actually really think that if you look at the world of very large businesses, there is the potential for a very interesting cosmic horror story in there somewhere. But you need to dig a little bit to go with it. And I think the problem is that it's also very easy for us to take stories like that and turn them into sort of morality plays about how capitalism's bad or something along those lines. But Karash, I'll give you an example. So actually, I that opening paragraph has got quite a bit in it. So when we're talking about, this is what you don't get about Lovecraftian lore and knowledge that would break your mind. So specifically what the Call of Cthulhu is saying in that opening paragraph is that they're saying, if you think about how vast the universe is and how small we are in comparison to it, and more importantly, not just how small our role in it is, but how we really are just on the knife's edge of oblivion at any given moment, that effectively the only reason why we're able to function day to day is that we really don't understand what's going on, that we sort of have an idea, and that, as they say, the sciences are sort of straining out, and at some point they're actually maybe going to get closer to something that could be real knowledge, and that day is going to be really terrible because we're either going to go mad or we're going to want to retreat into a world of superstition again rather than deal with what's actually going on. And so it's essentially our insignificance in the face of the cosmos. Obviously, in the case of Lovecraft, there's a whole, there's a kind of a whole mythos in the background of things that do not wish us well. But that's the kind of essentially, it's the insignificance and it's the sort of the peril that we're in that we're seeing. But that's the best sort of simple English translation that I can sort of give to what's going on. I think what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to try and take I'm going to take a route like this, just to maximize the number of times that I can get a scouting, and see if I can get some information about where the cannon is. I wonder how this works. It's a sack. What's there to understand?
Curious is the trap maker's art, his efficacy unwitnessed by his own eyes.
At least he's not stealing this stuff. I'll be honest, I would prefer a different lineup, but we can work with this. If I move him up, that's just going to push my my Hellion back, so we'll work with what we've got.
Great is the weapon that cuts on its own.
Nice. Damn it. So normally I wouldn't want to waste a move on this, but this gives me a chance to get the Vestal in a better position. So I'm moving up here. Yeah, we can reform the party. So obviously I'm paying in the form of Lost Torch and damage, but it does allow me to do stuff like this.
Continue the onslaught. Destroy them.
So 2 damage isn't going to be anything to freak out about. What I might try and do is actually boost the torch a little bit with my Vestal, seeing as we're a little bit better off in terms of health. I don't want to deal the damage to myself, so... Hey, nice. Or not the debuff to myself. So, seeing as they're already stunned, I'm going to minimize the damage that I do just to try and maximize torch and heal.
Obliterated.
Yay! So, that wasn't
Success
too bad.
so clearly in view. Or is it merely a trick of the light?
Alright. I think what I'm going to do, instead of going back to this position, I'm actually going to check these out first, just because it's going to be a journey of 3. And if we wind up with the cannon, we wind up with the cannon.
Packs laden with loot are often
There's
low
really
on
no reason for me
supplies.
not to use my torches here. Alright, I would have loved to do the Iron Swan, but I can't target this guy, unfortunately, so I can Grape Shot Blast. Do I want to Grape Shot Blast, though? It'll do a little damage to the Fusilier. It won't be enough to kill them. I'm still gonna do it.
A momentary abatement.
So a lot of that was just anticipating that the Hellion would do a lot of damage.
The slow death. Unforeseen. Unforgiving.
So now I get to Grape Shot Blast again, and I still get a shot on the guy. And everybody else gets healing. Oh, he's free, so never mind.
A time to perform beyond one's limits.
I think I'm actually going to try and do the Grape Shot Blast here, just so I can get a little group heal.
Slowly, gently. This is how a life is taken.
Ditching the herbs just because I like deeds. Not crazy about the lack of speed. Oh, hang on, we've got lots of food. Yeah. Okay. Iron Swan would not be a good choice here unless this guy winds up at the very back. Iron Swan is now a great idea. So clearly I want to maximize the bleed.
The ground quakes.
I don't think a Grape Shot will take these things. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I don't like leaving those dogs out for another round, but... not my favorite, but...
annihilated.
So I've lost Iron Swan, obviously, but... So the reason speed's beneficial to a Vestal is if somebody is bleeding and they're on death's door, you want the Vestal to act first, otherwise you potentially lose your guy.
A singular strike.
Maybe shooting the dog would have been a good idea, I'm not sure.
Destroyed.
So now he's going to start whacking people with a tree branch. Okay. I was kind of taking the chance that he would miss, and then we can heal up for the rest of the time. It's got 11. And, oh, he's dead, so... Again, I'm trying not to kill this thing. There we go.
Monstrous size has no intrinsic merit, unless inordinate exsanguination be considered a virtue.
Okay, more decisions to make. This might be one of these really rare times when I want to ditch the blood, but I feel like having a horde of this stuff is more beneficial.
In Radiance,
So
may
I
we
hate
find
losing 3 torches
victory.
like this, but we're obviously making good pace in the... dungeon. If I run out of torches, then we'll just camp. Alright, well, we know what we're up against. We still have a shovel, right? If we do well, we can still check out the rest of the... We can still check out the rest of the level.
A handsome reward.
Oh god.
Task well performed.
800 gold is decent. Ah, you know what? I'm not gonna camp. Or... I do have bandit sense, so we can actually get some buffs for the 12 pounder. So I hate leaving that money aside, but we will... This is just a chance to put some bleed on somebody who I can't normally target, similar idea with the grape shot. I'm gonna Iron Swan the Enchantress, although at this point I think a stun wouldn't go... Oh, that's right, I can't target the back row with that. So instead we're gonna heal. Nice.
Decimated.
How quickly the tide turns.
Not great. So obviously we're going to target the giant now. Vestal doesn't get to heal anybody.
Precision and power.
Risk was not worth it. I think we still do the bleed. Again, we're going to be able to heal at the campfire, but if I can make the campfire be dedicated to buffing, so much the better. Alright. So perfect example here about why I would want a Vestal to be faster. As long as the Vestal acts before this guy, then he's not going to get the Death's Door debuff. But if the Vestal acts too late, then he gets the Death's Door debuff. Now the good news is it's 3 damage per second, and he's got 4 health. I think he's got 4 health. Yeah. But that's a perfect example about where I would actually want the Vestal to be acting faster, because clearly having a debuff going into the boss fight is not ideal. So clearly here I wouldn't want to use Divine Comfort, but it's what I got at the moment. Whew. So gotta stack up the bleed. Yeah, well that's just a follow-up to a conversation that happened earlier, Alfie. Essentially what it's... Oh, I didn't actually mean to do that, but I won't complain about that action either. Yeah, if I lose my Hellion, I am going to be raging. Because basically the decision to put the Protection Stone on the...
The bigger the beast, the greater the...
There's the decision to put the Protection Stone on the Vestal, and... there was a claim that the Vestal didn't need to worry about that. Okay, like, I want all of this. I definitely want the deeds. Unfortunately, I do need to get past an obstacle, so removing the... See, the deeds are the one thing I really want. I am going to get rid of the... As much as I want to keep the Abomination lock, the fact of the matter is I only have one, and it's a common, so... Alright, obviously we're feasting.
The battle may yet be won.
Now, I did not know that you could leave this up. This changes quite a bit. So first thing we're going to do is turn on Bandit Sense. And where originally this is going to be about buffing, now we're going to try and get people to heal, and nobody has got the ability to heal. Alright, so we need to make the most of our first rounds of combat. So I definitely want our Hellion in prime shape. The question now is, do I put all the buffs on the Hellion? I don't think so. I think what I'm going to do is we're going to bless Dismas.
Is lit. The path is clear.
Okay, so we don't have any combat in between us and the boss, so the opening rounds with the boss, we're going to need to heal my 2 prime players. Like, the thing is, I want the Vestal and the Jester to die before I want the Highwayman and the Hellion to die. So obviously, first thing we're going to prioritize is stopping the cannon from going off. Second thing we're going to prioritize... Oh, that's right, the Iron Swan can't take this guy.
Well struck.
Okay, so he's done for. Actually, Grape Shot would have been better, because then it does some damage to the cannon. So, obviously, healing priorities.
Death waits for the slightest lapse in concentration. Confidence surges as the enemy crumbles.
Okay, that guy's just asking for an Iron Swan. This might be one of the rare times that I do the group heal, just because it's not clear who's going to survive it. The thing is, the group heal is such a wimpy choice. Let's buff everyone. Nice.
Masterfully executed.
We will Grape Shot just so that we can get some chip damage on the cannon. Now, you know what? I'm committing. Actually, it would have been smarter to heal Dismas to prevent the Death's Door debuff. So hopefully the Vestal acts first. Harvest. Again, just because of the chip damage to the cannon. And Grape Shot's not actually the strongest choice here. It does do some damage to the 12-pounder, but this guy's already done, so... The big scary thing here, though, is if I miss. Yeah. Nice. Okay, so we bought some time. Now we're Grape Shotting. That's because we get to harvest next. Okay, so now it's basically open season on the cannon. Okay, we get lucky again. And in this case, I tend to find that Darkest Dungeon rewards bold moves, so this is why I haven't been doing like incremental heals on everyone in the party. It's just like, I'm making my decision, I'm committing to it, and if there's a negative consequence for it, I'm just gonna have to live with that decision. I think we're still getting our buff from the Battle Ballad. So let's say Harvest actually helps me in two ways. It deals damage to somebody who is hidden as well as chip damage to the cannon, and I think that's going to be the reason for the Grape Shot again. Obviously, I'm leaving myself in a bit of a risk. Actually, in this case... This one... No, that's right, I can't do a back row hit, so I am going to go for the Iron Swan again. But if I miss... I'm basically banking on JFC. I've invested a lot on JFC Fuller. This is exactly why I put the extra investment on their attack. But my luck is going to run out on that if I keep leaving them for the back row. This is one of the weaknesses that I have in this group, actually, is that I don't have a lot of people who attack that back row. Fortunately, my front two are a little bit better off, which means I can now dedicate the Vestal to taking out the back row if it comes down to it. In this case, though, Judgment on the cannon. And again, like, I'm going in with both eyes open as far as the ability. Like, I think we've got... So, like, there's already... Like, this is what all that buffing was about, right? The knowledge that that JFC Fuller is going to be bearing an inordinate amount of the burden of taking out the Fuseman. But on the other hand, like, when we get in a position like this... See, the Jester didn't turn out. Ah, oh, damn it. This is the thing I didn't anticipate. So what it was supposed to be was that I'd sort of have a backup in this situation. But this is one of those cases where I've actually put myself in a corner. We're gonna hit the cannon, and then the Vestal opens herself up to taking out the Fuseman. But this is the one that I'm actually scared about, because Judgment isn't exactly a devastating attack. So again, this is an example of one of the ones I'm a little more scared about, because this is the weak spot where I'm at. I do the Harvest, which is intended... Actually, I think in this case I'm going to do the Slice Off. That's anticipating that my Hellion's going to be damaging the cannon instead. I will still do Grape Blast because this guy's taking 4 damage around... Oh yeah, actually no, they're fine. I could afford to do more substantial damage. So I can... -15, higher chance of crit. In this case, I'm actually going to hit the 12-pounder directly. That's just because ending the fight is one of the better forms of damage mitigation. So I already know the Fuseman's going to bleed out. This gives me a chance to heal up my Highwayman. Yeah, position 3. It really loves putting stuff in position 3 and making life difficult for me, so... Hopefully the Jester's able to deal with this. We're not getting the buff anymore. I think... This is such a cowardly move for me to do. But I'm taking it. So we're back in a pattern that makes me... Yeah, see... we're back in a pattern that's going to put the Fuseman in the back row, and this one I'm going to go for the buff, just because, again, the focus here is to take out the cannon. Beauty. So I can Iron Swan this guy out. It's actually probably better for me to just go straight for the cannon, but fortunately I've got a Harvest. Oh! Alright, I'm still gonna heal the Highwayman.
A corpse of twisted metal and splintered wood, at home amongst the headstones.
Seize this momentum. Push on to the task's end.
Okay, so clearly I want to bring the... Clearly I want to bring the blueprint with me. Bag of Marbles is one of these rare ones that I really want to take because it's a pure benefit, and you almost never get pure benefits in this. So...
The light, the promise of safety.
Now, you know what, I'm not even gonna go through the level. I'd like to take extra stuff, but the risk of starving isn't enough. It isn't worth it. Let's just take our money and get out of there. So the problem is this is like a negative. I'm pretty sure this is a negative return for the quest, because I'm pretty sure we spent more than 1,500 on upgrading our people. But we did get a decent haul out of that, so. Alright, so Cool Eagles joined the Pantheon of level 5. Looks like we're just shy for Ren. Skilled Gambler, eh?
Seditionists and heretics skulk in the alleys. They must be found out.
Rats among us. Threats to our collective safety are never in short supply, but this week our local constabulary received a welcome augmentation. So in this case, we definitely want to make sure that Boucher is not doing anything. Obviously, they're on the verge of leveling up anyway, so that's that's a thing. Okay, Camerooni scrambled and recovered 69 stress. Collier had a night on the town, recovered 70 stress. Guillau's bloodletting was a bit too effective. They're now minus 25 bleed resist, but they recovered 100 stress. Machault meditated and recovered 84 stress and is no longer selfish. Kite underwent effective disease treatment and cured rabies. Ego Karen underwent effective quirk treatment and removed calm. And Casual Nothing underwent effective quirk treatment and removed slow draw. All right. I think we're just shy of what I need to upgrade in the blacksmith. Oh, who would have thought I would have wanted an extra crest? That's so upsetting. I know I can trade for it, and I don't think. Oh, I can. Man, I feel bad doing this, but I'm actually going to, because the reason I feel bad about it is that I'm not actually going to take advantage of.
Every plan relies upon a strong arm and tempered steel.
I'm not actually going to take advantage of the upgraded blacksmith right away. The good news, though, is now I'm going to be upgrading the furnace. It's going to cost me less to get people to higher levels, and all will be well. All right, I am close to finishing for the night. I guess the real question is, do I want to do one more run, or do I want to call it? I'm mildly curious if we have any Hound Masters in the ranks. We do not. Who's stressed out? Kite is stressed out, so... Kite isn't a drinker. He can gamble. Alright. If I were to do another run, what would I do? I mean, I'd be kind of tempted to try the farmstead at some point. I don't think I'm quite ready to go on the Viscount. So if I were to go to the ruins, we'd be running after the Necromancer and also potentially dealing with the thing from the stars. Could make progress towards the... so I think we've dealt with the upgraded Hag. Yeah, so we're looking for... So... Cove, the ruins. Yeah, so we've got 2 ruins. We have dealt with everything in... Wait. We might actually have 3 in the ruins. Yeah. We actually have quite a bit ahead of us in terms of level 3. Yeah, I don't think I have another one in for me tonight. I'll take a quick look at the rewards. Man. 100%. God, it is mighty tempting to try and go for that Necromancer right now. Jesus. This is a really good Vestal item. Alright, let's take a look at the levels. So I don't want to send level 4 people on it because they're going to be a little too good. I can definitely see myself bringing Ren on the next one. Camerooni, Plagas. Cecilia's a decent level 2, right? Alright, have a good one, Karosh. I don't know. It's a medium one. Ah. It's 11 o'clock. Alright, this will be the last one. Because I don't have willpower. I am, however, going to remember to actually equip people with proper gear this time. I think I'm going to resist. Oh, yeah, this could get ugly, actually. I'm going to resist. I'm going to risk spending the. Spending money upgrading people. I would like to in one sense, but I want to save that money for dealing with the Necromancer. Okay, I'm going to keep you in position 1, so that's fine. Less dodge. It's going to get a little scary with this one, but I think this can work. Okay, can't inflict blight, unfortunately, but it's a grave robber only, and it's a pure benefit, so I'll live with it. Okay, the Kyurgeous Charm obviously will go on the healer. Tend to use them a lot for range skills. Then again, I also use... when I use the range skills. Again, minus speed is not great, but... so they get more stress, but they are better at healing stress. Or they can be awesome at crits. Alright, it's an interesting combination I've chosen. I'm not entirely sure I would sit back and say that this is my idea of an ultimate loadout, but I am a little curious in seeing how this will turn out. So let's go to it. I'm gonna be a little cheap on my acquisitions here. So the one thing I'm not crazy about is the low scouting, but like I said, we'll see. We'll see whether or not my miserliness pays off in being able to upgrade against the Necromancer. This is 100% the last one for tonight, though. And this is partly just... excuse me, this is partly just because
There is power in symbols. Collect the scattered scraps of faith and give comfort to the masses.
I didn't finish my beverage, so this gives me an excuse.
Ancient traps lie in wait, unsprung and thirsting for blood.
Well, this is a good start. Oh, I should have checked that one out. I went dumb.
Even the cold stone seems bent on preventing passage.
I don't believe I've seen... oh, that's... okay. I am really bad with diseases this time around. So I gotta get the Vestal out of position 1. Oh, hopefully they get pushed. Please, push, push, push. Everything bad that could happen is happening. These are like the perfect people to not be bled out. I couldn't even seal the deal with the Iron Swan. Ooh. Actually, gargoyles are the way that I lose. Because they've got high prot and it's hard to bleed them. We'll buy ourselves a little bit of time while we regroup. I hate that. Oh my god! I am tempted to retreat.
The sin is not in being outmatched, but in failing to recognize it.
Alright, so the reasoning here, it's a huge amount of stress damage that I take, but it, there's no benefit for me there. It lets me reorganize the party. And we can sort of, you know, regroup. That was not a great start. So the big problem here is that we are lower on all our resources, which means that I'm not really going to be, well, no, I might be able to make something out of the firewood, but it's going to make me a little bit more miserly in terms of my food. Just because of that. Ooh. Hopefully we find a... Yikes. I mean, if we get a relic out of this, that'll be great, but it seems, yeah, it's a little hopeful. Okay. Well, we'll make do with what we got.
The match is struck. A blazing star is born.
If I can, I'm going to use the Jester to help with the stress damage that the Vestal's taken, but I have a feeling it's going to have to be all hands on deck with the enemies, because the gargoyles are sort of designed to... They're pretty decent counter to the party that I brought.
Exposed to a killing blow.
Well, should have played my guitar. Hey, focused. All right. So Judgment is the name of the game here. Nice. Probably heal, but oh, cool. I mean, the blight's not great, but ah. I am so scared of getting the Crimson Curse.
Impressive.
I'm gonna judge this guy in the back just so we can let the ticking damage take him out.
Sedated.
He's taken 5. He's got 6. Damn it!
Eradicated. A death by inches.
No. He's got to do that. Oh, interesting. I genuinely thought he was gonna heal up. So, clearly we take advantage of the situation to heal up the party. I forgot this guy does not have Inspiring Tune.
Obliterated.
Alright, this is gonna be a very dramatic dungeon.
This expedition at least promises success.
Well, they're being generous with the torches, I'll give them that. Okay, this is a little more manageable. The Bone Spearman's gonna suck, but I think we can manage with most of this. I kinda doubt this Hellions. I kinda doubt their delivery on the Iron Swan, so I want to start hitting the Arbalest if I can. I'm definitely reconsidering my under investment in my team for their damage.
Destroy them all.
Confidence surges as the enemy crumbles.
We definitely got lucky with the Vestal improving instead of gaining a sort of like a demerit. I kind of think Battle Ballad might have been a better call. You know what? I should have taken a look at which one was better at piercing.
Their
Well, it's a moot point.
formation is broken. Maintain the offensive.
All right.
As victories mount, so too will resistance.
So that decision to retreat from this battle is seeming like a increasingly good idea. I am gonna freak out if we get another obstacle in this level. Okay, so we've more or less eliminated the possibility of a camp. I don't have to do I'm still gonna go up here just because I have no idea what the curios have, but it is gonna be a bit of a waste of resources.
A handsome reward for a task well performed.
But yeah, so the problem with the fire is I may not have the food to sustain it. So again, I think it's pretty unlikely we're gonna find relics here, but it looks like everything's a curio, so. Oh, alright then. I mean, no real reason to have the torch this low. I'm obviously going to prioritize the right-hand side first, and then if it really comes down to me having to do one of these room battles, I'll probably use the firewood then, because at that point I'll have an idea about whether or not we have enough to sustain another hunger. Alright, well, that answers that. I think things are going to have to get pretty desperate if I want to use the... Hey, the real Garen. Just a heads up, we are going to be finishing up after this one, and it's relics, so this may not have a big flashy ending, but I am not going to complain about a simple ending on this one, because we had I don't know if you just came in, but this was a pair of gargoyles, and I don't know how closely you play this game, but I really don't have anything to deal with a very high bleed resisting and high protection enemy. So we ran away, and I don't regret the choice. Ooh, all right. Well, we don't have any options. We gotta fight through this. This is gonna be very difficult, though. My decision not to invest in my team is gonna come back to bite me here. Okay.
Another one falls.
My my grave robber is now gonna earn their keep. Especially when I set them up for ranged attacks. I think I'm going to go for the battle ballad here just because the grave robber is going to be the star on this one. But if we can get kind of a pattern of taking out one each turn, well, that's so much for that. I would normally want to do a Divine Comfort for the kind of to distribute the heal, but in this case I think a Judgment is worth it.
As the fiend falls, a faint hope blossoms.
Yeah, I mean, I made this out to be such a bad thing, and then we actually didn't do that bad of a job against the gargoyles here, so...
Remind yourself that overconfidence is a slow and insidious killer.
Okay, well... I'm gonna look like the world's biggest baby if I don't continue on after this, because that, like... We've got some room. Okay, now I want to be careful because so I can't use my firewood, for instance. Iron Swan should be able to deal with this one, and I am going to battle Ballad just because I got two characters who I want to buff out of this. I'm still Iron Swanning because this guy does some ridiculous... They do ridiculous stress damage. At least that's my experience of them. I'm also going to Judgment. Partially just because of the heal, but also I don't trust this Hellion to actually deliver on the Iron Sword. Jesus. Chose the wrong person to heal.
Grievous
Good God!
palpable fear.
I'm not retreating, but... I may regret heading into this. This is partly just so that I can get the extra chip damage on the... I better hope my Vestal moves before this guy. Okay, good. So my reasoning for healing the Grave Robber rather than distributing the heal is that anything that the Hellion takes is going to take them to 0, so I might as well do a bold move over a partial move.
As life ebbs,
Alright, I gotta run.
terrible vistas of emptiness reveal themselves. The abbot will be grateful. The trappings of his faith have been restored.
It's a disappointing way to end, but I don't want to lose one of my higher level characters just to open up something that might have been trapped anyway. I have a feeling that we would have... So, like, this is a hard one. I think if we had not completed the mission, I would have gone through to the end on that. Because I'm confident enough in my ability to sort of rotate out the damage and the healing to prevent anyone from dying. the problem with this one was it was purely a greed run. So like all I'm really losing out of that is the fact that everybody's going to be on their back from the stress damage, which I was going to be sort of putting people out to pasture in terms of the stress anyway. And like the payoff for it, there's very few times when you open a treasure chest and you're like, oh, well, that was worth losing a character for. So again, my manhood has been, has been, severely called into question by that. But in this case here, I feel okay with backing out. I mean, we're up 10,000. We shorted the crew on money specifically so that it would be a money-making endeavor. We got a bunch of crests, so all of the upgrades at the blacksmith are going to be cheaper. So this mission accomplished what it wanted. It just ended on that sour note of having to run away. So Jesus Christ! All right, and they got the Black Plague for their trouble. So that's where all my money's gonna go. All right.
Take advantage of this faith-fueled charity.
Ooh.
It will not last.
All right, normally I want to deal with disease right away, but let's So Ren will only pray. Pray away your deviant tastes. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with Michault yet. I think I'm going to save that decision for next cast. But wait a minute. Oh, that's right. We already got this. So
In the end, every plan relies upon a strong arm and tempered steel.
I think we've upgraded too many things. Yeah, so I'm back to this rather enviable position of actually having enough. It is tempting for the medical devices, but... And the treatment cost reduction is also kind of nice. I think we're going to save it for now, just because the majority of my costs are going to be coming from the blacksmith. Yeah, I think we're going to hoard crests for the next little while. Nobody else has any diseases that I need to get rid of, so... The most tempting quest for me to go on would actually be to take a lot of these level 1s, like especially Mowbray at level 1. And basically take this opportunity to upgrade a lot of these... a lot of these people who are just on the cusp of moving up to a higher level. But obviously we also have a meeting with the Necromancer at some point. So if I want to do that, I try some combination. I obviously can't bring Sharp. It would be nice if I had a Crusader. Unfortunately, I lost my last good one, so I either need to put them up through the ranks, or we do something like JFC Fuller, Dismas. Actually, yeah, JFC Fuller, Dismas, Sin, and Mojo Storm, save for the fact that Mojo Storm is not exactly the strongest healer. That would not be a terrible group for the Necromancer, because, like, Iron Swan to hit the back row, Pistol Shot, Flashing... No, hang on. No, Throne Dagger still goes to the back row, and Sniper Shot, and obviously the Sniper's Mark would help out. So, like... That would definitely be like a balls to the wall run on the Necromancer, but it would not be... Like, it wouldn't be objectively bad. Like, it would be a, okay, well, you are clearly very confident, but obviously Frankenvender would be a safety choice. But that's going to be something that I deal with later. Essentially, I need to decide between going to the Weald with one of my lower level parties. I might take a break and go to the farmstead just to see more of the Color of Madness, because I haven't actually really done a lot with that. I don't think we're ready to go to the courtyard. Yeah, I don't know. Depends if I'm in the mood for a boss fight first thing next time. Anyways, thank you everyone for watching this. It's funny, Darkest Dungeon always winds up... This is actually one of the few times that I've gone less than 4 hours with Darkest Dungeon, because I almost always wind up playing it much longer than I was expecting. But I was hoping to get some stuff done tonight. I still have a little bit of time left in which to do it, so I am going to be a little bit closer to finishing on time. Thank you everybody for watching. I'm just going to take a minute here and see if there's somebody that I can host for the evening. And what do we have here? We've actually got a few people streaming. So now the big question is, who do I host? You know what? I'm going to host Kilgore Trout tonight. And I'm actually going to spell his name correctly this time. So for those of you who enjoy the streams with Daggerfall, Kilgore is playing the Terminator Future Shock, which actually uses the same engine as Daggerfall. It's a Bethesda Terminator game. I don't know how many people know about it. I learned about it watching him. Kilgore is somebody who plays a lot of retro games. He's a member of the GOG stream team. Definitely got a good attitude, fellow Canadian. And one of the things that's so enjoyable about his streams is that he plays stuff that sort of he played when it first came out, and he definitely kind of communicates the enjoyment and the interest that he had when it first came out. So it's always fun to host him. It's always a little bit of a question in terms of which game he's doing or if I've hosted him too much, but I think now is a good time to send it along. Just a quick preview of what's coming up next week. Monday, back to Stellaris. Wednesday will likely be more Cultist Simulator. Friday, I still don't know what I'm going to be doing exactly a week from now. It might be more Darkest Dungeon, but I have had Age of Wonders Planetfall on the list, as well as Night Team 4 again, so we'll see how the muse moves. I am going to do my absolute best to record a Daggerfall and a Surviving Mars episode over the weekend, but I do have a few things that I want to do which are related to some other tasks, as well as Dirty Rectangles meetup on Saturday. So it's going to be a full weekend. I'm going to do my absolute best to get everything in, but I am going to allow myself a little bit of flexibility with regards to my my vodcasts. But with that in mind, I will announce whether things are happening or not happening on Twitter as I normally do. Without further ado, please do enjoy Kilgore Trout. You can feel free to use that raid message if you want, because he does know who I am. If not, I hope you have a good time there. Until next time, see you then.